Okay, monism. Priority monism states that all existing things go back to a source that is distinct from them. So, for example, in Neoplatonism, everything is derived from the one. In this view, only the one is ontologically basic or prior to everything else. Well, there's a bunch of big, obnoxious philosophical words for you. So let's go through these. Neoplatonism. This was a theory developed in the 3rd century AD by Plotinus, and neo means new, and he was bringing about what he considered a new and improved Platonism or Platonic thought. And if you remember, Plato, the Greek philosophy for Plato, believed, I'm going to minimize this for a minute so I can look at you. Okay, so the Greek philosopher Plato visualized that there's this realm of eternal forms, and this cannot be created or destroyed, but everything that you could possibly ever know or come up with or invent has always existed in this realm. It's kind of like co-equal with the mind of God. And that's how Plotinus synthesized Platonism. He put all these eternal forms into the very mind of God. And then below the mind of God, we have this realm of concepts and how we can think about things. And then below the conceptual realm, we have the actual physical material realm. So we have like these layers of reality. The eternal forms are most real. Then we have the concepts of those forms. And then we have the physical manifestations of those forms. And let me give you an example. So this coffee mug, this is the lowest form of reality. Well, actually, a drawing of this would be lower than this, or a picture of it. But this physical thing, Plato would say, has less reality or less permanence than the concept of coffee mug. And then that realm of eternal forms, the coffee mug there, is the ultimate perfect template of what a coffee mug should be. Now, we could physically destroy every coffee mug in the world, but the concept and the ideal form of coffee mugness will abide. Pretty cool. All right, so that's the Neoplatonist piece of that picture. He believes he spoke in terms of emanations. And so, unlike in the Genesis account where you have God separate from the creation, so you have God out here and he's making a physical world separate from himself. In Plotinus's cosmology, creation emanates from God. It's almost like God is a fountain, and reality pours out of him and flows into the cosmos. And so the closer, it's almost like a wood burning stove in the corner of your room. The closer you are to the stove, the more fire, light, heat, and in this case, reality you have. But the further away you get from that radiation, the less light, heat, and ultimately reality that you have. And so that is Plotinus's view of the cosmos. So he would really say there is only one thing. And in that sense, I suppose you could even say mind and brain are just two ways of talking about one thing, both proceeding from the mind of God. Existent monism posits that, strictly speaking, there exists only a single thing in the universe. And in fact, that is how the medieval scholastics defined substance. They said that which is self-existent and self-consistent. And there is only one being in the cosmos that matches that definition, and that is God. God is the only being that is not dependent on anything else for bringing him into existence because he always existed, and God is not dependent on anything else to keep him existing. All other beings that we're aware of were brought into existence and need their existence sustained by something outside of themselves. So in that sense, God would be the only thing in the universe. Substance monism asserts that a variety of existing things can be explained in terms of a single reality or substance. Substance monism posits that only one kind of substance exists, although many things may be made up of this substance, such as mind or matter. Dual aspect monism is a view that the mental and the physical world are two aspects or perspectives on the same substance. That was Spinoza's view. He says it's just two different ways of talking about the same thing. Only one thing is happening, and we can speak about it mentally or we can speak about it physically. But there's only one event happening at any given time in the universe. And then finally, neutral monism believes the fundamental nature of reality to be neither mental nor physical. So that's very interesting. I don't know what their third option is, but they don't like either of those choices. Any questions on that slide? Now, the biggest monist I can think of would be, like I mentioned earlier, would be the Eastern religions, like in Hinduism or Buddhism, and this concept of all is one. And a lot of people don't realize that because from the outside Hinduism, they literally have millions, if not billions, of gods. But those many manifestations are like a great jewel, and each god is just like a different facet of that oneness, of that one thing, including all of us. We're just facets of the one, from amoebas to Brahman. Okay. All right, no questions.
Sorry, sir, I guess I have a question. So for monism, is it like everything is God, or is monism like a way to understand people? Like there's only one aspect to us, or is it both of those things?
Yes, so they're the spiritual monist. Many of them would be comfortable with the word God. Some of them would just call it one or cosmic universal mind. In fact, that's what the Greek word logos means, is cosmic consciousness, universal mind. How cool is that? And that's the same word, John, First John, where it talks about in the Gospel of John, I'm sorry. In the first chapter, he says, in the beginning was the logos, cosmic mind, universal consciousness. And I just love that. In Chinese, the Tao would be a similar concept. If you're familiar with the Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu, in fact, I would say the Greek concept logos and the Chinese concept Tao are very, very close. That'd be a wonderful comparison paper. So those are our like spiritualist monists. But then we have the materialist monists that believe everything is physical matter. And it kind of goes back to like the first and second law of thermodynamics as well. The idea of the conservation of energy, that it cannot be created or destroyed. It's eternal. It can change form. It can be dissipated or congealed, but we have the same amount as energy today as we did at the beginning. It's just, is it more or less concentrated as the changes we see in the cosmos? But the materialistic monist would boil everything down to the physical material, where the spiritual monist would boil everything down to the spiritual or mental, and the dualist would have a foot in both worlds. Does that make sense? Yeah. And in that sense, I would see myself as a dualist.
Mm-hmm.
I would certainly put the mental primary over the physical if push came to shove. Like I would identify more with my mind than with my body. But I do believe I have a body. I don't think it's just a phantom image I'm carrying around in my head.
Mm-hmm.
Good
So
question.
would pantheism be monism because it's like everything is God,
It's
or
a
is
monist.
that even in the same camp of thought?
Yes, that's spot on.
Oh, okay, okay,
All is God. That's exactly
okay.
what it means.
I was just curious. Thank you.
Yeah. And the panentheist is all is in God. And so it's a slightly different nuance of, like, I would be comfortable with that statement, all is in God, but I would not be as comfortable saying all is God.